Hey friends, welcome back to Thursdays where we have the free training and free coaching if you want it. So this week we're talking about failure. And I love that Jana's on here because her and I have very different opinions on failure. So this will be really good to kind of like process out. But I want to do a little bit of like my perspective on failure and why, we'll do my perspective and then we'll just talk about like your perspective and then, we'll do that. So why is failure bad?
Well, it doesn't make you feel good.
No.
It hurts you.
Yeah, my period doesn't make me feel good either, but I don't label it as bad. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's like a lot of us are adverse to it because it is painful. Like whatever emotion it brings up for you, the feeling for me is like it's painful. The disappointment, then the mental battle of I'm not doing this right, I can't do this, I'm not successful. And a lot of times our brains go to this, it'll take it up to the next level and tell us you're not special enough. This is easier for other people. Other people are special and they don't feel like this, right? And because we live in the social media world where we're only seeing people's highlight reels, so it does look like we love as humans a romantic story and we love romanticizing stories. And so I think that's the appeal of social media, is because it all looks so beautiful and clean and a very easy direct path to success, right? Nobody wants to watch an Instagram story or an IGTV of someone failing. Like it doesn't even feel good for us. So it feeds this culture of perfection, because we don't like to look at failure and of other people's failures, and we don't like to look at our own failure. So we just come up with perfection is the best way. If I can't do it perfectly, if I screw up, that's not the right way. And a lot of times, like when I was younger and I was in college, I've spoke before, I really wanted to be a doctor or a vet. And I was so afraid of failing because our education system here in the United States has a lot of negative context around failing. They want you to have perfect grades. They want you to be a 4.0 plus student, right? Because the 4.0 students get to go take AP classes, and the 4.0 students that take AP classes get to go to good colleges. The rest of us, you might get to go to a community college or a trade school, right? And it's this idea that perfect grades equal a perfect life because you get to go to the college you want to go to, right? And then you have to do really well in college so then you can get a good job and get paid well so you can have the money you want to buy the house that you want, so you can and hopefully you get married somewhere in there, so then you can have the kids and then the retirement. And that is like this image that has been sold to us, and especially here in America, like the American dream, right? And we see this story played out in media. We see this story played out in Netflix. We see it played out in our movies. Like we love it. It makes us feel good, right? And so there's no space for failure in this story. And because of this story and how we've been conditioned, when I went to college and I really wanted to be a doctor, I knew I wasn't great at math. And math is a very heavy component in the curriculum of that. And I was conditioned to believe that I couldn't fail. If I failed, it meant I was dumb. I didn't have what it took. And it gave me more evidence that I was meant to kind of just be average and settle for whatever came my way. So I just could not overcome the fear that lied within me to take these math classes and not do well. So I just said, sorry, I can't do this. I'm not going to do it. And I didn't. And I looked at the catalog with all the different majors, and I only chose the majors that did not have college algebra. I didn't decide like, oh, I really find this interesting, or I really like to do this with my life. My decision is, how can I avoid failing? I know I have to be a 4.0 student in college. So how can I avoid that? And that's how I selected my major. I don't recommend doing that, but it's fine. But it's because of this idea. I was never taught how to fail. I was never taught that failure meant that you were actually moving towards success. That failure, that I felt a lot as a kid, we all do, right? As toddlers, we don't one day just start walking, right? You have kids, right, Jana?
Yes, too.
Yeah. So how long did it take them to learn how to walk well?
A good 6 months, I guess.
Yes.
Few months for sure.
So for 6 months, let's just use that number. 30 days a month. Not good with math. So 6 times 9. It's like 180 days or something.
Yeah.
180 days, your kids failed in a row. Just failed and failed and failed for 180 days straight until they got it. So we've all, like, that's how we create skills, right? That's how we learned how to walk, is we failed our way to walking. And we, back then as kids, we just don't make it mean anything. We don't make it mean anything about who we are, our worthiness, our intelligence, our capability, our athleticism. We don't put any meaning around it. It's just like, oh, I want to walk, and I'm going to do what it takes to walk. And if that means that I fall down, I'm going to keep doing it until I walk. And for somehow, I don't know why, but society then takes that concept of like doing something until you get it right and labeled it failure and made us feel like that was wrong. And it made us feel like if you were really smart, really talented, really capable, you would have just started walking the first day that you decided to.
Yes, I was actually listening to podcast. I don't know if you know him, Rob Dial, I think. Anyways, he was talking about the same thing, and he was saying that if we were to learn how to walk, if human species learned how to walk when we were adults, you know, like let's say like at 18,
yeah,
we would be, most of us wouldn't be walking.
No, we wouldn't do it. I mean, think about just think about CrossFit. Like how many, okay, here's a good analogy for you. Think about when you started CrossFit and all the people that you started with, they were also beginners. And then we fast forward a year, 2 years later, how many of those people are left?
Yeah, good percentage for sure.
Right. Like I look at gym photos of my gym, and it's a big gym. Like there's like over 150 people. And I look over the years, and there's usually only like out of the 150 people, only 10 people that are the same faces in all the pictures. It's because we do not like to suck at things. We create stories around it, and we place meaning around it. We have a story. I'm not great at CrossFit. I don't know how to do Olympic lifts well, or I'm not good at gymnastics. I can't lift heavy. And we take the story and we make it mean. I'm not athletic enough. I'm not good enough for this. I don't have what it takes. Right? And those are very painful beliefs and thoughts for us. And there's no way we're going to just keep doing that. Right?
Yeah.
No one wants to feel that pain every day from that story that keeps cycling in their head. So we're just going to quit and go find something that we're better at or that's safer for us.
No, there is definitely nothing like CrossFit to make you, you know, like you feel the high, you know, but you also feel the low, you know, because you have all this comparison to other people, or you realize how mediocre you are, and you'll probably never, learn how to do, I don't know, butterfly pull-ups or whatever,
Yeah.
handstand push-ups,
Yeah.
I know for me, like I kind of like my motto is like, okay, as long as I have fun and I get a good sweat, I'm good. And
Mhm.
as long as I'm safe and not injured.
Mhm.
So I don't know, like I guess for me, some things are like I kind of feel like they're almost like not achievable, like limiting beliefs, definitely.
Right. Right. And you're smart enough to realize that they're just limiting beliefs, right? And like
Mhm.
when we move to a place of like, am I willing to do 180 days like my kids did to be able to walk? Am I willing to do that to achieve these things that I believe are impossible?
Mhm.
Right. And like this year, and I think a lot of times new CrossFitters, like we want to, it's so uncomfortable for us to suck at all of it. And we think if we're good at all of it, we'll feel better. Right. It's that it's better there than it is here thing. Okay. So and so I see so many CrossFitters in the beginning, and this was me too. I just wanted to learn it all. I wanted to be good at it all. So I didn't have to deal with this uncomfortable feeling of like sucking at snatches. And so I would just work on it all, right? Well, when you work on it all, you're never going to get good at anything.
That's definitely my issue for sure. And that's why, like, when you put a post about books, because I was thinking, I'm so dispersed, like I have too many goals, too many books I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, I don't know, kind of like bugging me lately. Maybe I should just focus on one thing, and pursue that, instead of like wanting this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is helpful. I think my response to you in that post was we just don't create meaning about it. Like whenever we create judgment about like it means, I can't even remember what you said you made it mean about yourself. Like
Uh,
that you
yeah,
weren't
that I
focused or
cannot stick
disciplined.
to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't stick to one thing, like I'm just too dispersed, therefore I achieve nothing, because I just have too many goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I don't like that we create that judgment instead of just being curious, like, oh, okay, what does this mean about me that I like to have all these different things? Like I'm curious. I'm a curious person. I have a lot of different interests. And the reason I kind of balk against that is because I too used to shame myself for reading 5 different books or wanting to do all the CrossFit moves, right? And I started a graduate program in exercise physiology. And so we dove very, very deep to the cell level, right? Like we had cardiopulmonary physiology. So all we focused on was the heart and the lungs. And I hated it. I was like, that's not who I am. Like I am not a person that can like obsess about one thing, like and focus on it. Like I like learning about a lot of things, but I don't have to go like to the micro level of it. That's not who I am. And I don't create judgment around that anymore. But I will agree with you that it is beneficial for us at times to like reel that curiosity in and say, okay, I'm only going to focus on 2 things for this season of my life. So I spent a lot of time like trying to work on all the things CrossFit. And then this year I was like, I'm only focusing on 3 things. The first half of the year, I'm going to work on my muscle ups so I can finally get my bar muscle ups. The second half of the year, I'm working on my pistols. So I'm just going to dedicate 6 months to pistols, 6 months to muscle ups, and quit trying to do like just get better at all of the things.
Yeah. I love how you flipped it, like when you said that I'm just curious about many different things, because you noticed the negative self-talk, right? And you just flipped it into something positive. I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's good to be aware at least, like what kind of thought process you have in your brain.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your kiddos, right? Like if you had like your kids were like 5 again, would you get onto them for like being like, oh, I want to go learn about this butterfly. 5 minutes later, like, wait, I want to go over here and learn how to do this pull up. Wait, I want to go over here. Like, I think most of the time parents would like encourage that curiosity and not shame their children. Like, no, we need to spend 8 hours talking about a butterfly.
Yes. And like you see those posts, like talk to yourself as if you would talk to your friend who is in need, right? But usually we're the kindest to the friend who is in need, but the harshest to ourselves.
Yes. I love the idea of like reparenting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I like it too.
Like seeing Jana as the 6-year-old Jana, right? And like reparenting her. I'm trying to work on that with myself is like the younger, because that's where a lot of my wounds are from, is from childhood. And that's where a lot of my clients' wounds are from, or childhood. And then they created all these belief systems, these limiting beliefs, and this negative self-talk out of those wounds.
It's a very powerful meditation. I do that sometimes. It brings tears to my eyes every time.
Yeah.
I just kind of usually like, because I have a like couple of pictures that were like I'm 2 years old. So that's the image that comes to mind, when I imagine myself that child, and I just kind of put her on my knees, like kind of like kiss her and tell her like sweet things,
Mm-hmm.
and that meditation brings me to tears every time.
Could you share that with us?
Well, I just kind of hug and give love, and just say, it just visualization, right?
Yeah. Did a meditation on the inside timer?
Oh, no, I just kind of go within,
Oh, you go
just,
within and do it. Okay.
oh, yeah. And just
Yeah.
kind of imagine, there is that image of a little girl that I have from the pictures. And I just, like sit her down on my knees and hug her and just give her love and, say that everything will be okay,
Yeah.
but I found it so powerful.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but every time I do it, and like I've done it in like driving in the car, you know what I mean? Like what's within you, like nobody can take that away,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So it brings tears to my eyes every time. I don't know why.
Yeah. I
But
love
it's
it.
just very powerful.
Yes, it is. Because I think a lot of us have childhood wounds that are just not healed, and we're still like living out of those childhood wounds. And when we can like start nurturing that child within us and reparenting it, I think it really helps us make a lot more progress. Because I believe that negative self loop in there that is always judgmental of us comes from those childhood wounds.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not a lot of people, like I know if I talk to my mom about childhood, she's like, well, like I didn't drop you, like I didn't like you're like not burnt, you're healthy, and no, like I don't really have like a lot of traumatic experiences in my childhood, like I come from a good family that gave me love, but we still have
Yes.
unresolved trauma. It doesn't mean that you have to be like abused and molested to have trauma.
Yeah, I 1000% agree with you. I think that all humans have childhood wounds, regardless of what parenting environment they came out of. Like they could have the best parents ever, but they're still not perfect because there is no perfect humans. And my coach one time told me that, we have this spectrum of emotions, right? Like jealousy, resentment, disgust, and then we have like this adoration and love and joy, right? Like there's a whole spectrum of these emotions. And as a family, you're humans living together, experiencing these emotions about one another, with one another. So of course a mom would be jealous of her daughter, because a mom is a human that has all these emotions that she gets to feel about another human. And like there's nothing that's gone wrong there. It's just in a family system, you have humans experiencing all these emotions. And it just was so empowering for me to like see like this is normal. Like no matter how awakened or conscious or loving parents are, like we just don't get out of childhood and out of life unscarred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so I think it grants freedom to moms like you. Like, you know, like your parents did the best they could with what skills and what they were capable of. You will do the best you can with your kiddos, with your tools and what you're capable of. But they're not getting out of childhood unscarred. And
Oh
that's
yeah, I
okay.
already told them. I already told them. I said you'll be traumatized. Of course, you know. I know. I definitely know I'm not a perfect mother. You know. I
But there's no
first of all,
such thing as perfect mothers, right?
yeah,
There's
no.
not. And I think that,
One of my worst qualities is being a perfectionist. You know.
and I would
But,
probably say if I was coaching you, like, that's a childhood wound,
mhm.
because there's 5 like shields that come out of childhood. And you know, our little brains interpret things however they're going to interpret them, right? They don't have, like, we're not evolved yet, we don't have enough information, so we just interpret events like they could be even small insignificant events now to us, but your little brain was like, ooh, not going to do that again. And so these 5 shields are perfectionism, drivenness, people pleasing, um, anger, and invisibility. So those are the coping mechanisms as children that we learn to pick up, so we don't make mistakes, or we don't lose the love and affection or approval of our caretakers. And those are the only skills, tools that are kind of like within our capability as kids, right? So when you get in trouble and you're like, okay, mom could take her love away from me, I can never make a mistake, I don't want to make a mistake anymore, so then she will love and accept me. And then we take on that perfectionism shield, and then as adults we label it as, I have a perfectionistic personality. And it's like, well, you have a childhood wound that you use that as a coping mechanism for, and just have constantly used it as a coping mechanism, because there's still this belief that if I'm not perfect, I won't be loved, I won't be accepted, I won't be enough, and I won't be worthy.
Mhm. Yes, people pleasing, definitely my other one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, most people, uh, those are very common, right? Mine was not those. Mine was anger and drivenness. I'll get
Mm.
back at you, I'll show you.
Mhm.
It's just, those were the coping mechanisms that worked best for me in my childhood.
Well, I had anger issues too. Well, and that's the thing, like we could use them all, right? Like
Right.
in different circumstances. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But that, like, leads us back to this failure topic. So you can see, like, why we're so resistant to failure. And I think it's really very unfortunate that more people aren't educated about failure and why it is necessary to create the life you want. I think that there are millions of humans stuck in lives that they don't enjoy, like stuck in jobs that they'd hate, or stuck in marriages, or stuck in whatever life situation they don't enjoy, because they're too afraid to fail. It's just safe, and they're going to stay in the safe. And then you spend your life just like your soul slowly dying, is how I saw it from my life. And when I started studying like all these very successful people, like, I don't know if you've ever read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh, I know of it. It's
Yeah.
famous. Yeah.
Yes. So he studied like Carnegie and Henry Ford, right? And then I started studying like some of the other more modern, like very successful people. And the thing that had in common was they were all they didn't make failure a problem. They knew failure was the way to get what they wanted. You like hear of who created the light bulb?
Oh, Edison?
Edison. Like, you read about Edison, and like he had 1,000 different experiments fail before he got it right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
And like Elon Musk, I saw an interview with Elon. He was like, quitting is like, does not even like register for him. Like he will not quit until he gets what he wants. So that implies like he fails a lot. Like he still hasn't got to Mars yet. He's like, I will not quit. I will get to Mars. I don't care how many times I have to fail. I am not quitting. And so I think it's really unfortunate that we've been conditioned to believe that failure means something about who we are. And so a lot of us are not willing to fail, and we're living these very mediocre average lives where this like group of people like somehow have been taught that failure is like the way, and they're living this big, big magical lives, fulfilling their dreams. It's because they just get like, you fail your way to success. Because failure is just practice. It's just reps. It's just reps. Like, oh, well, that didn't work. Okay, we're gonna do it this way. That didn't work either. You're learning what works and what doesn't work is simply what failure is.
Yeah. No, like I know for my oldest one, because of the lockdowns, they had online schooling, right? Like for almost 6 months this year. And it's been tough. And she's a naturally smart girl, and she's always been good in like, math and English and French, I think. But like the last semester, she did very badly, So, she told me that she wants to do better next year, and I know that I've been, with my shields, like perfectionist, drivenness, whatever, like I'm pushing her, like, okay, let's study in the summer to get ahead, next year. But I see zero drive, from her side. So failure, like what she did in the school, like during the school year, she didn't do very well. So let's like, if we call that failure, but the desire to get up back on your feet has to come from you, not from anyone else, right?
Yes.
It has to be intrinsic desire, like personally, I kind of like, I know I'm pushy, I'm like Enneagram type 8, definitely, and I noticed that I often cross boundaries with her, and I like to push her, and of course I see nothing but defiance and opposition from her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I decided I'm not gonna do that anymore, like it's gotta be her.
Yeah, which makes a really interesting point, and I'm so glad that you brought that story up, because failure implies, from my perspective of failure, that you're actually trying. Like you're trying and you're showing up. Your example is like, it's not even failure. Like it's giving up. It's quitting. Like she's not even showing up and trying.
No.
So that's
No,
not even failure in my definition, because failure means that you have to try. You have to be in and doing the thing. But if you're not even trying, like that's just giving up. It's quitting.
Yeah, you're right. Yes. But, for younger generation, they may have their own challenges, right? Like it's a lot harder for them because, parents don't let them fail. The school system doesn't let them fail anymore, right? Like you cannot even fail a school year anymore. Because my husband was like, well, I'm going to talk to school and tell them to put you back in the same grade because you missed like so much, I'm like,
yeah,
they won't allow you,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be curious with her. Like what's going on that you're not showing up? Like, why is this not like, and not from a judgmental place, right? Like just like a curious, like to help her get down to like the root cause. Like, why didn't I show up? Why wasn't this important for me? Why did I not care? It's not about capability, right? She's very capable. It's about like, what was going on in my life and in my brain that I just didn't show up for my life, and I didn't show up for this. This isn't, it's obviously not important. Something else is important. Well, what is this other thing that's important to you right now?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, she's smart and she actually does like a lot of self-help books, she reads like John Sincero, like that. So I can actually have discussion like that with her.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Let's see here. I have this saying of when like today, I had a bad day today. Why did I have a bad day? I was feeling sorry for myself. Like I just had this why is no one like engaging? Somebody else in my mentoring group posted that she was like started the same time as me and is like doing way better, and that really like my brain took that and like just tailspin into like feeling sorry for myself. But I do like the saying of nothing has gone wrong here, right? Like when we fail, nothing's gone wrong. This is just the process. This is the way. This is the path. And so I think a lot of times when we fail, if we can just bring ourselves to like nothing's gone wrong. Like this is how it's supposed to be. This is part of the process. This is part of my journey. So that's a helpful thought that I just wanted to offer up out there.
Yes, well, I guess it's Byron Katie's The Works, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find that when I start using that, right, like, and like, is this an absolute fact,
Right.
And then everything just falls apart, because no, it's not a fact at all.
Right. Yes.
It's whatever story your mind created and made into.
Yes, I love that. I haven't read anything Byron Katie, but Brooke, Byron Katie, she studied Byron Katie, so I get a lot of Byron Katie's things via Brooke. So yeah. Where's the facts in this? And that's super helpful. Like, is it true that nothing's working? Like, no, that is not true. Right. Let's see here. And I think another thing, like when we're trying to build this failure resilience, and again, I want to emphasize like failure means that you're showing up and you're trying, and it just didn't work out the way you wanted it to, right? And I saw Simon Sinek talk about like he doesn't like the word failure. He likes the word falling or failing, because like you don't failure, right? Like you don't fall off something, you're falling off of something, and so it's an action. And so that's what failing is. It's an action. It means that you are taking action, you're involved, you're doing the work, and you're failing in this process. So then Brooke taught us like failure is simply just quitting. That's it. You just quit and you don't show up anymore. Right? So if you take that and you make that your new definition of failure, like I quit. I don't show up anymore. I don't do the thing. That's how I know when I failed. But if I don't quit, then I'm just failing. I'm just trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing. And it means nothing about me. It means I'm actually an active participant in my life. And I'm trying to figure things out. I'm trying to create a dream life instead of settling for comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. I was listening to another podcast, life coaching podcast, and that's what she was saying. Basically, when you feel upset or whatever, try to focus on the things that work, like on the positive things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And well, I guess it's basically like celebrate those tiny accomplishments, that you don't even think about, you take for granted, or there is, and when you start celebrate, like I had a goal, for this week, and then I'm like, oh, I was supposed to do it last week and it didn't get done, so I was being harsh on myself, but I do have a busy job, so it's hard to do extracurricular things when I have a busy job. So, and I was being hard on myself, and negative self-talk, because I love doing that. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna celebrate like little victories, and I start like listing all the good things, and it made me because when I do this negative self-talk, it just makes me feel like shit, and like kind of makes me feel like giving up.
Yes. I did the same thing. Like today, I knew, like I felt it coming, the negativity, right? And by 3 o'clock, I was like, I could just quit. I could just quit. I could just not show up. And like I was entertaining that because of the negative self. Like it does. The negative self-talk spirals until you finally are just like, I'm just gonna quit. Like, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, when we focus on all the positive and all the little things that did happen, you know,
Yeah.
like it definitely makes the brain, you know, like puts it on a different wavelength.
Yes, I agree. Or you just pull a Byron Katie, like, okay, you want to feel sorry for yourself. Like, where are the facts in this? If you're going to feel sorry for yourself, then you need to be feeling sorry for yourself based on facts. And it's like, well, there is no facts. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and that I guess step number one is to be aware.
Yes. To be aware, be aware, be compassionate, be curious. Like, why? And I probably should do that. I didn't do thought work today. I didn't journal. So I really need to just pause and like, why? What created this for me today? Where were the thoughts that created this? Why am I feeling sorry for myself? Right. Yeah. So, and I want to mention one last thing in terms of failure resilience. Like, A is the awareness, reframing what failure is, right? Your definition of failure. What is your measuring tape of failure going to be? Because the brain ambiguity is like a playground for the brain in terms of it's like you're giving it evidence for negative self-talk. But when you can be very clear on things, just very, very clear, it takes that playground away from it. And just trying to fail in like simple little things and then sitting with the emotion of it, right? And then another thing for failure resilience is just, and I know you're in our program, so you should get the panel pretty soon, but like knowing that it's not all in our brains, right? That part of it is a biochemistry thing, that if we don't have enough serotonin, it's very hard for us to be rejection and failure resilient, because serotonin is kind of the buffer for us to help us feel self-confident. And it also helps us be rejection resilient. So for people that have balanced levels of serotonin, rejection and failure is like a pinprick. Like it's painful, but it's like livable and doable, right? For people that don't have adequate amount of serotonin, it feels like your arm's been chopped off. It's devastating, right? And even like a small, like your friend, like not texting you back for 2 days, like just that level of rejection feels so much bigger when there's not adequate amounts of serotonin. Versus if you have adequate amount of serotonin, it's like, oh, it's interesting, she must be busy, and you move on. And I think it's important for us to be aware of that, because it's not ever emphasized. We just think it's about our self-confidence, it's about like our thoughts and our beliefs, and this is why failure is hard for me. Yes, but there's also this biochemical component that I would argue, I would love to see research done on, like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. Like, I would love to know what their serotonin level is, right? To see like, did you have a very healthy amount of serotonin, and that's what it made it easier for you to just fail your way to this massive success, versus people like me that I've always wanted to be successful, but I've always had low serotonin. So one setback felt devastating, right? And so it was much, I had a deficit. I was working with a deficit all these years that some other people don't have. And that's not an excuse, but I just think it's something for us to be aware of, that a lot of people don't have adequate amount of neurochemicals, and that's part of these things being hard.
Absolutely, like if you look, I don't think there is research on, very successful people and their levels of serotonin, but there is definitely research about, people with schizophrenia or like other mental health disorders, and that's what it comes down to, insufficient level of serotonin. And basically the drugs that they give them, is to correct that.
Yeah. And I love that you knew that. Like, I didn't. Dr. Carmen actually told me recently, like, schizophrenia is like a dopamine issue. And that's really what they give them is, I can't remember the name of the drug. It's to increase their dopamine to like normal levels because it's so low. And then bipolar is like an influx of dopamine, and then a bottoming out is what creates that bipolar. And I had no idea. So I love that you already knew that.
Oh yeah, well, like it's all about this serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, right? That's yeah. And I think it's you're right. But the only thing that I'm wondering, like, because if you take like synthetic, I don't know if there is like a dependency on that, or
I can tell you, like, from my personal experience I think I was on Paxil for a while, which is a antidepressant, anti-anxiety. Yes. Yeah. Like I quit it cold turkey one time, and it was awful. Just the withdrawals from that.
Yeah, no, you cannot do that. It has to be like year-long process to wean off.
Did not know that. So yes, because the body gets used to, I mean, it's like any drug, right? Like that, it's all neurochemicals. If the body doesn't have to create it because you're getting it through an external source, then it's not going to spend the energy to create it. So if you're taking stuff to help with dopamine, like the body's going to be like, well, I don't need to make that much. You're going to go ahead and take it. So it's really hard to get off because then the body has to start gearing back up to make it. And that whole process is painful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
That's why I love Dr. Carmen's approach is like, we're not going to Band-Aid this. Like, we're going to get to the root cause. Like, why is your body not producing enough serotonin? Why is your body not, like, I'm so glad I'm talking about this. Why is your body not producing enough dopamine, right? And so in this panel that you and the other participants are going to take in this 6-week program that starts Monday, like, you're going to get, this is your neurotransmitter panel, right? So it's going to have like your serotonin, your dopamine, your norepinephrine, your epinephrine, your glutamate, your GABA, etc., right? What's really interesting about this is on the back side, it starts going into the chemical breakdown. Like, where in the process, I'm trying to see it, where in the process did it break down? So like you can see on mine here, this side, I didn't have enough dopamine. My norepinephrine and my epinephrine were both low as well. So we couldn't start tackling here, right? Because above it was broken, above that was broken. We could have gone up to L-DOPA and figured out, okay, maybe the L-DOPA conversion to here is like, we need to support it to get adequate amounts of dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. But Dr. Carmen was like, I think that's not the problem. I think we're going to go one chain up to tyrosine. And somewhere in this tyrosine right here, my body isn't getting enough of the amino acids or the enzymes to convert over to L-dopamine, to then convert over to dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. So we're getting to the root cause of where the breakdown is in the conversion of these chemicals. Does that make sense, sort of?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So then if we can heal my body and heal this process through food and supplementation, then I will start on my own producing enough dopamine, which then will convert into norepinephrine and epinephrine. Same thing for my serotonin, same thing for my glutamate, and etc. So you guys will get this in your panel, and then you'll go over it with Dr. Carmen. Where is the breakdown? Where do we need to start tackling from a supplement food to give you the amino acids, the enzymes to support the conversion of these things?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Super fun nerd stuff.
Oh yeah, I love it.
So do you have any questions for me?
Um, no, I think it was great, and I remember a while back there was a book written. I forgot the name of the book, but it was on failure, basically.
Uh-huh.
The how it starts with how nowadays, especially, we shield our children from failure so much, so that's why they call them, snowflake, culture or whatever, because and anxiety is the like I see that in my kids, like my oldest one, she definitely has like anxiety issues and panic attacks and all that, you know, nothing excessive, but still like definitely issues. And because they're not used to dealing with failure,
Mm-hmm.
because we've done everything to shield them from failure.
So do you think, I think there's two reasons, but do you think that because anxiety is like rampant through teenagers and young 20s now, right? Like it's like
Mhm.
there's a need for in the psychiatry world, there's not a specific practice for children. And now there is a demand for childhood psychiatry. So do you think that part of this is because of parenting and not teaching our kids how to fail? And so it creates a bunch of anxiety in us because we don't have the skill set and the tools to fail.
I think it could be one of many factors, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like there is definitely like this is a digital age that they're growing up, and that's, unprecedented as well, right?
Yeah.
Being bombarded, like you were saying about the social media, and that highlights only the best moments of your life, like we're not gonna just it's true, like where you have a shit day and you're like, well, I'm not gonna make a post on that,
Right.
because you have to give both that image of that everything is pink and fuzzy and
Yes.
in your life, right? So I think that's a different, like another issue for sure,
Yeah.
but definitely one of the factors.
I also think it has a lot to do with our food and our water and our toxic environment that like
Absolutely, I was gonna say that, but then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna go into that,
no,
but I was
yeah, I think
definitely like
it's
all the GMO stuff,
yeah.
for sure.
So chemically, like these kids are not even set up for success. Like they're already from childhood chemically imbalanced because of toxins in food and water and etc.
Absolutely, I like to listen to Dr. Berg on YouTube when it comes to like diet, not diet, but I mean like food,
Yeah.
and it's he kind of opened my eyes on like a lot of vegetables that like I love corn, and corn is like this is the season of corn,
Yeah.
but all the corn we have is GMO. you know
Monsanto.
yeah, so like all the vegetable oils, it's all GMO as well, so milk, unless it's organic, it's GMO. And it's scary what you're putting in your body. Like you said, all those hormones, that we know very little about the long-term effect. But all we know is that anxiety is rampant, like cancers, all types of cancers are rampant in North America,
Hmm.
right? Because Europe has a lot stricter laws about the GMO, but than we do.
Yeah. 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 I it makes me sad for that generation, right? Like I just feel like we've kind of failed them in terms of our just turning a blind eye to some of these things. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think like it's hard because it takes action from all of us, right? Like a radical action from all of us, radical change in our lifestyle that we're not ready to give up, right?
Right.
uh, i I love going on a bike ride, but I have to drive like 20 kilometers to get there, and when it's like a bike path for kilometers, where you can just bike, don't think about cars or anything,
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I know it's not healthy, but sometimes I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna drive, like it's not needed. I can, bike around my neighborhood. I don't have to drive somewhere, waste gas, like
Yeah.
pollute, and all that.
Yeah.
But
I know.
I don't think enough about that, because we still maintain our lifestyle, like I go driving everywhere. I don't think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, the same here. I'm definitely guilty of that. Yeah.
Well, if you start thinking about it, it's radical changes.
Yep. 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 Consciousness and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, cool. All right, my friend. I appreciate you showing up.
Thank you so much, Kim. Well, it's always a pleasure. I always learn something new, and it's just good to reinforce this, right? Like,
Yeah.
to talk
Yeah,
about it.
especially because I'm like invested in you. Like I know you're wanting this new position. So I'm like gonna hammer in this failing. Like she's gonna go after this new position and get it.
Well, that's what I didn't do for the last couple of weeks because I'm so busy. I just need to apply. Well, I have an appointment on Monday to kind of go over paperwork, with somebody. But there was definitely some negative self-talk, but I was able to celebrate the little things that did work out for me.
Yeah, I was actually secretly hoping because in the 6-week program that you're doing, I'm like, oh, I hope that's going to be her goal in the 6-week program is to like make application and like go after this position.
Yes, one thing that kind of crossed my mind when you were saying about failure, because well, first of all, I don't hate my job as is. Like I actually do like my job, so I'm just, but I was thinking that if it doesn't work out, like I will take it, because I'm also a fatalist. I kind of, maybe it's a lazy approach, but I kind of think, well, if things don't work out, it's not meant to be.
Right.
It's
I don't
not
think
my
it's
door to
lazy.
open.
Yeah. I don't think it's
But
late.
maybe, I should change my attitude towards, like, it's not my door to open now.
Right. Right. Or I just had to work a little harder to open that door.
Mm-hmm.
This door was about, it was always meant to open for me,
Mm-hmm.
but it had some lessons for me to learn to actually be able to open it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nice to see the lessons everywhere. They are everywhere.
Yes, they are. The human experience.
Experience. Okay, well, thank you so much, Kim.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the rest of you guys that are watching this on replay, I wanted to just take a time to mention to you, like Jana and I talked about this program. So I have a 6-week free, semi-free program. It's called New Beginnings. It's beta testing. So what we're doing is we are going in and talking about failure, talking about self-confidence, going after some goals, like creating some results in our life and how to do that. This program is for people that want something different. They've been wanting something, or they're working on wanting something, and they're wanting to figure out how to get the results, like to create these results in their life. Dr. Carmen and I together do this program because a big part of the program is a neurotransmitter hormone panel that all of them are having to take. So that is not free. That labs charge us for that, so we can't get around that. So that is the only component that is paid in this program. The rest of it, the rest of 6 weeks, are free because it is the first launch of this program. So if you guys have ever been interested in coaching or are really wanting to create some result, this is going to be the perfect group for you. We have 4 spots left. So if you're interested, please email me, DM me, and I will give you some more details. We get started on Monday, and they're going to have their individual calls that week. So we can really just like dive into it. So if you're interested, please email or DM me. And I appreciate you guys showing up, and we will see you guys next week. All right. Bye, girl.
Bye.